Okay, good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening. This is our regular open business meeting, first one of the month for October 13th, 2025. We met earlier this evening in closed session and are now open. And so we will begin this open meeting with a moment of silence if you'd like to join us. Thank you. At this time, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm inviting two state officers to come forward and introduce themselves. They're going to lead us in the pledge. So if you guys want to come down and introduce yourselves to the public.
Hello, my name is Jude Hickerson, and if everyone will please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
My name is Emma Light, and I am a sophomore at Turner Ashby. I'm currently serving as the Vice President of Competitive Events for FCCLA in the state of Virginia. My main job this year is to help promote STAR events to students in Virginia. STAR events are competitive events where students usually complete a project in their own school and community. These are often community outreach and service oriented. We had 50 students compete in these events in Rockingham County last year. Jude and I also get to help plan and lead our state conference at Virginia Beach in April. I'm so grateful I get to serve this year and give back to the organization that has given me so much. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot.
Hello, my name is Jude Hickerson. I'm currently a junior at Spotswood High School, and I'm serving as the Virginia FCCLA Vice President of Public Relations. My office requires me to create infographics and social media posts for Virginia FCCLA to promote our work and mission. My position has given me so many incredible opportunities, like meeting other state officers and members at the national conference in Orlando, and meeting family and consumer sciences educators at the VATFAX Professional Development Institute. Emma and I want to say thank you for your support as we serve FCCLA and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you both for leading in the pledge this evening and for all you're doing for FCCLA. At this time, Dr. Shiflett is going to make his way to the podium for a special staff recognition.
Chair Hurst, if you would please join me as well. This is some recognition not just from the school division, but also from the school board, sort of a joint recognition. So as many of you may be aware, on Thursday, October the 2nd, we had an accident involving a school bus transporting students and chaperones as they were traveling to the Virginia State Fair. They were going, at that time, they were in Louisa County. And this involves students and teachers from the FCCLA programs at Pence Middle School and Elkton Middle School. And years ago, I heard this saying that I've often used, when things go wrong, don't go with them. And it's a really good motto to live by, because sometimes things go wrong, and a bus accident is things going wrong. And tonight, we want to recognize some individuals who lived by that motto. Our bus driver and the teachers on that trip remained calm during times of stress and anxiety. And that's when we need the adults to be the adults. And so we want to recognize them this evening. This year, we started the school year off talking about lollipop moments, incidents where we have an opportunity to make the difference in the lives of people. And I feel like, I challenged our staff to this year look for opportunities to create and celebrate lollipop moments. And I think for certain this is definitely a lollipop moment. So first, I'd like to recognize Mr. Matthew Nice, school counselor at Pence, and the bus driver on that particular day. Nice, come on down. I will say I did get a chance to look at the video. So we have cameras that take pictures inside the buses, not so much outside. And so I had a chance to see him handle the bus and keep it from flipping. So job well done. But then after it was over, just as calmly as like nothing had happened, he's like, "Boys and girls, we need to evacuate the bus." And I'm like, wow, so well done. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Yeah. So also on that trip, Mr. Nicholas Zimmerman, a FCS teacher and FCCL sponsor from Elkton Middle School. Is he in the house, Mr. Zimmerman? Come on up here. Thank you, sir. Yep, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Mrs. Cassidy Lamb, is she here this evening? Oh, absolutely, yes, she's here. So again, another FCS teacher and FCCLA sponsor from Elkton. Thank you. I appreciate it. And finally, Mrs. Kendra Dodrell, FCS teacher and FCCLA sponsor at Pence Middle School. So thank you. And I do want to say about the teachers as well. A comment was made to me from the superintendent of Louisa County. I have a pocket in my shirt. What is a useless shirt without a pocket? That our principal, I'm going to call out here in a second, did a wonderful job, and the teachers were terrific, right? Again, that calming presence during a crisis moment when, people were stressed and concerned. And before I don't have certificates, but I do want to give a shout out publicly because I firmly believe that we are obligated to give honor where honor is due. And so one of my thank yous is to the superintendent, and he's not here, from Louisa County, Mr. Dr. Douglas Straley. He called me a few moments after the accident. I had learned about the accident, and he said, I was at Broadway High School at the time, so I was about as far away as you could get from the accident in terms of Rockingham County. And he said, "Larry, I'm on the way to the scene on your behalf," right? And he shows up, and then Ms. Coles, their director of transportation, shows up at the scene. And she arranges transportation for our kids to an elementary school, right, to get them off the road, to get them to safety. And they take them to Jewett Elementary School, and the principal, Bryant, and his staff feed our kids and nurture our kids and take care of them for the time that they're there. So it was awesome. We sent them some baked goods on that Monday after, just as an appreciation to them because they didn't have to do those things, right? But it was just awesome. And also, I want to shout out to Dr. Todd Johnson. I asked him, once I learned about it, I said, "Can you get to Louisa County and get to the accident?" And he said, "I'm on my way." After I thought he would have been there, I called him to say, "Todd, are you close?" And he's like, "Well, I'm about 15 minutes away." I'm like, "My goodness, how far is Louisa County?" But it was out there, right? It was a haul, and I appreciate him doing that. Mrs. Abernathy and Mrs. Shank, because we had some students taken to the hospital just to be checked. Those two ladies went to University of Virginia Hospital, and I think we're there until perhaps 9 or 9:30 that evening, waiting for the last chaperone to be checked and released. And so I appreciate that. And the sheriff's office sent Kevin Dolphemeyer to be there. So we had lots of people helping. Chief Jeremy Holloway called me numerous times, and he was at the state fair, but he communicated with the fire and rescue who were on the scene from Louisa County and kept me connected with everything that was happening. And then Mr. Sowers, he's here in the building as well, coordinating through that, getting another bus over there. And Miss Lohr, she was at the state fair already that day, and she was willing to go pick those kids up. So we do what we do in Rockingham County. We take care of each other, right? It's about our people. We had an incident, and I am very thankful to the good Lord that no one got seriously hurt or injured. Could have been much worse. When Dr. Straley sent me some pictures, I was very thankful at that moment when I saw that. And I said, just thankful to the good Lord that no one was seriously injured. So everyone, from Louisa County to the Sheriff's Department to Fire and Rescue, from our staff, was fully supportive during that time. And yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that. So, and hopefully we don't have to do that ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. The next thing on our agenda tonight are comments from the public, and we do have a few of those. Nicholas Zimmerman, if you'll make your way up, and Matt Nice, you're on standby. Or in the batter's deck, or on the deck. Forget my terms. On deck. I used to
Close
play
enough.
softball, but you know what? I didn't bat. No, just a pitcher. No, not a batter. Right. All right, you know the routine, I reckon.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Shiflett and members of the school board. First, I wanted to take an opportunity to thank you all for the recognition that you gave to us this evening. I want to emphasize, Dr. Shiflett, what you said regarding the support from our own school division, from Rockingham County Schools, in the midst of the accident. There was not a moment where, once we got everybody off of that bus, there was not a moment where I did not feel supported. And so that goes from the phone calls, with my direct administration within the building, but then as communication was happening with the emergency first responders and making sure that everything was handled as appropriate as possible. Ms. Laura, you calling and checking in and leaving a message and not getting an answer from me and hopping in that bus, and I'm coming your way regardless whether you want me or not. But it really does mean a lot, and I want you all to hear that every day that I wake up and I go into Elkton Middle, I prepare myself for the best, and I prepare myself for the worst, and go into that every day is a new day with that mentality, and hope that I never have to experience the worst. I also wanted to take an opportunity. I know that you all have heard me speak very passionately about our Rooms Communication app. I want to continue to emphasize to you all that it is not working. It is ineffective, and based off of the events that happened regarding the field trip and being in an environment in that area where our internet connection, even cell phone reception in certain areas was spotty. I know that you all are considering other options very heavily, and so I would ask that you all come to a decision on that soon, as we are moving into state and national conventions and conferences within our different career and technical student organizations this year. Thank you all for the work that you do as Election Day is rapidly approaching, and some of you all will be impacted by Election Day. We know that the work that you do is not an easy job. We know that people in the community are not always understanding of what it's like to be on that side of the table where you all are tonight. So thank you for the work that you all do, and thank you for taking time to recognize us this evening. Thank you.
Matt Nice, and then Delilah Nice. No? Just the one of you.
All right, there we go. All right, well, I just wanted to take this moment to thank the board and my administration and everyone who supported us. You know, it's one of those moments you hope will never happen when you're driving bus, but I also wanted to really kind of shout out the training program that we have here, because we did some preparation for that, including kind of accelerating at the bus garage and then having to stop quickly. And so I know in the moment I was recalling that, and kind of I knew a bit what to expect, how it was going to handle kind of in the moment after being impacted. And so I really thought a lot about that sometimes when you're doing the training, you're a bit like, you know, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? But I really understood after that happened why we practiced so thoroughly. So I really appreciated that I felt very equipped in that moment, even though it's something you hope will never happen. But I really looked back and appreciated that in the moment, and it was very helpful. So I wanted to make sure to mention that. And thank you all for everything that was done for us. So I really felt cared for after that, and everybody was checking in, and I got a lot of text communications. People came to see me while I was waiting at UVA to be seen, and I felt really the love. So wanted to make sure to emphasize that and to thank you all for recognizing us. So thank you.
Lauren Pierce.
Good evening, Dr. Shiflett and members of the board. I'm here as a parent concerned about the proposed redistricting that was brought up at the last meeting. You said at that meeting that you didn't want to go through street by street, but as someone who lives on one of the streets presented on the redistricting plan, I do actually want to talk about that. I want to start by actually challenging you a little bit. How do you expect our high school students to plan for their career and technical or college education out 3-4 years when this board apparently hasn't? I cannot believe that an entirely new school was not in the 5-year plan, and that might be necessary, or that another redistricting might be needed only 2 years after the last redistricting. I bought a house in this school district, in a particular school, after looking at that 5-year plan and after looking at the last redistricting, and I can't believe that a mere 4 months later, I might be moved, and my child, more importantly, might be moved to an entirely different school. Many of you on this board speak a lot about parental choice. I appreciate that. However, one of the key choices is just what school my child will go to. And that's what I cared about when my husband and I looked into purchasing our house. To me, there's an important difference between a school where 78% of 5th graders test proficient or above in reading, and that's on the most recent Virginia Standards of Learning, or as we could be redistricting to, one with a 59% proficient or above rate. I'll note in this district, there are 4 schools where less than half of 5th graders, test at proficient or above in reading. Again, a school in which 84% of 5th graders are proficient or above in mathematics, and one in which 54% are. Again, where we could potentially be redistricted. I'll note that within this district, there is an elementary school where only 26% of students test proficient or above in mathematics. Now, you might think that standardized tests don't tell the whole story, and I understand that. But as a parent, that's one of the things that I wanted to look at when purchasing a house, and that's my right, my choice. And so that's what my family did. I expected to stay in that school at least for the period of the 5-year plan. And I cannot really believe that 4 months later, we might not be. And so I'm here to, first of all, oppose the proposed redistricting, but secondly, to challenge this board to think long term so that the 5-year plan might last 5 years. And if you have extra time, maybe think about those low test scores. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next thing we have on our agenda tonight, board members, is the consent agenda. Included in that are the minutes from September 22nd, September 29, the field trips that we need to approve, the personnel listing. And with that in mind, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion to pass the consent agenda passes 5-0. Moving on to action items, we have a budget amendment being presented to us by Mr. Justin Moyers.
Evening, Chair Horst, Dr. Shiflett, members of the board. I have a budget amendment to go over with you all this evening. This is for the capital projects budget for fiscal year 2026, and what's requesting is for $3.5 million that was left over from our 2025 year-end operating fund balance to be transferred to the capital projects fund. And with this money, we will complete the security camera project, use it for the Spotswood High School needs assessment that we've started, and then also any remaining funds will go towards the MTC project. and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Chair Hurst and board members, I recommend approving the budget amendment that will transfer end-of-year 2025 operating fund balance to the capital projects funds to be expended in the FY26 as presented by Justin Moyers, Chief Financial and Operating Officer.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, do I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Cross. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. Any questions or comments for Mr. Moyers? Very good. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion to pass the budget amendment passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
5-0, I should say. Okay, Dr. Amy Painter is coming with some policy revisions.
Chair Hurst and board members, I recommend approval of the proposed policy revisions as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. A second? Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any questions or comments for Dr. Painter?
The only thing I see on there is for the addition of the active duty military SBMA policy. In one place it's listed as JECAA, and I think in the other place it's listed as JECCA. So just so that's corrected.
I think the file name is different than in the notes. Good catch, Ms. Cave. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Dr. Shiflett, you're next.
Yes, Chair Hurst, I'm bringing to you tonight the field trip policy, IICA. This was proposed or initiated in March of 2025 with basically the primary goal of adding some additional layers of safety and accountability for both our students and staff participating in overnight field trips. And since that time, we've had numerous discussions with, among the board members and open session. We've had, I know board members have participated in listening sessions with faculty and staff across the division. And so I'm bringing tonight to you for approval this policy. So I recommend approval of the proposed revisions to policy IICA as presented with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, do we have a motion to follow his recommendation?
I move to follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the proposed if I can say it, my goodness. Approve the proposed revisions to policy IICA as presented with the effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Lord. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
I may add, Chair Hurst, I put an effective date of January 1st, so there's some things that we have to do on our end to prepare as far as getting together some training that's required with the policy, and then also making sure that folks can get background checks prior to overnight field trips. So I just wanted to clarify why we're putting it out to.
Thank you. That answers my question. I wanted to make sure that gave you enough time for implementation. Any other questions?
And my question was, where are we at with the training?
Still in process of finalizing it and getting. I think what we need to do is get our outline together and then actually get it in a platform that makes sense and that's easily accessed to anyone and they can do it on their time, on a web platform, and then we can also have accountability that they did complete the training.
And it is the intent of this board to pay for those background checks, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of approving this field trip policy revision, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. That concludes our action items for tonight, which moves us into information items. This month is Bully Prevention Awareness, and we have a presentation on that by Dr. Emily Holloway and Mr. Brian Scholl.
Good evening, Chair Hurst, members of the board, Dr. Shiflett, and guests. I'm excited to be here tonight along with Mr. Brian Scholl to present on behalf of Support Services and to highlight Bullying Prevention and Awareness Month in our schools. Mr. Scholl is completing his admin degree and as his final project asked to choose the project of preparing and presenting before the school board. So tonight he's going to do that on a topic that is one of his passions as well. October is Bullying Prevention and Awareness Month, and not only is it a national campaign, but in our schools, we see it as something much bigger than just a theme. October reminds us to talk openly about bullying prevention and educate our school communities so students feel safe, connected, and valued. We know that when students feel valued, they are more likely to speak up, support one another, and build the kind of community we all want for our children. Tonight, we want to share information about bullying and bring awareness regarding the importance of prevention and show you what our schools are doing or plan to do throughout the rest of this month. Mr. Scholl?
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here to speak about something that I do care a lot about. So my hope this evening is to teach a little bit on what bully prevention looks like and to conclude with a very specific definition of unity. So in order to know where we're going, we first have to know where we are, more specifically who we are. So who are we? We're Rockingham County Public Schools, educating today's learner, developing tomorrow's future. And this comes right out of our comprehensive plan. We're committed to providing equitable access to exceptional learning experiences. We're committed to empowering every learner, celebrating diversity, and strengthening our role as a hub of opportunity and growth for the entire community. We're committed to ensuring that every student is employed, engaged in their community, enlisted, or enrolled in higher education after graduation. And we're committed to fostering an environment where students can explore their passions, develop essential skills, and build pathways to their future. And these are words that are very, very important to read, word for word. That's who we are. And to sum that up, that is to say that we are committed to the success of every student in Rockingham County Public Schools. But how exactly do we do that? Because it's one thing to say that, to do that is an entirely different thing. How do we do it? Again, right out of our comprehensive plan, our number one focus area is safety. If something is number one, that tends to make it the most important. Within school safety, we say that RCPS intends to foster a culture of respect through a district-wide emphasis on bullying prevention and character education. And so we're all in agreement. Bullying prevention is important. Even more than that, we say that Rockingham County School Board is committed to instilling in students the finest values of humanity and civility that civilization knows. We set the bar reasonably high. But what stands in our way? What is it that keeps us sometimes from being able to do what we say we want to do? And that's bullying. We've heard bullying before. I teach pre-K students through 5th grade. Pre-K students know what bullying is. Kindergartners know what bullying is. They know that it's unproductive and unacceptable. They know that it's detrimental to the school culture and climate. And everybody knows that bullying is harmful to the individual lives of the victim, the bystander, and the bully. Nobody would disagree with that. But we don't always know exactly what bullying is. Ask 100 people, you might get 100 definitions. So let's just take a brief moment to be clear on what the state of Virginia says bullying is. And again, these are important words, which is why I want to read them. The state of Virginia says that bullying is any aggressive and unwanted behavior that is intended to harm, intimidate, or humiliate the victim, involves a real or perceived power imbalance between the aggressor or aggressors and victim. It's repeated over time or causes severe emotional trauma. Bullying includes cyberbullying, but it does not include ordinary teasing, horseplay, argument, or peer conflict. So that's a very comprehensive definition. But we go on to expound upon this definition. We say yes to that, and bullying involves physical and emotional behaviors that are intentional, controlling, and hurtful, that create harassing, intimidating, or hostile, or otherwise offensive educational environments. We say that it's unwanted, repeated, written, verbal, or physical behavior, including any threatening, insulting, or dehumanizing gesture by a student or adult that is severe or pervasive enough to create feelings of intimidation, alienation, or humiliation, which unreasonably interfere with the school performance or participation of others. So that's the definition, and nobody remembers that. But to put it really simply, how do we identify bullying? It's 3 things. There's purpose, pattern, and power. Purpose. The kids in my school, they know what it means to do something on purpose. What is a pattern? Once again, the youngest students in my school know what a pattern is. A pattern is something that is repeated. But what is power? And what is a power imbalance? This is the part that gets a little bit confusing. And to anybody listening today, or listening in the future, I don't need you to be experts on the state's definition of bullying or our county policy's definition. What I need you to do is be able to recognize that hunch that something might be bullying and to know who to go to in those moments. If you're a student, to know to go to your teacher or your parents. If you're a teacher, to know to go to your principal. If you're a principal, to know to go to your central office friends. So we know what bullying is. Now what do we do about it? Exactly this. We prevent it. We do everything we can to prevent bullying. We receive annual training. That's our faculty, our staff, and our students on how to prevent and identify bullying and how to report it when there is suspected bullying. We follow procedures for the receiving, the reporting, and the investigating of complaints. Very, very important. We involve parents. We honor the privacy and confidentiality of everybody involved. And when the time calls to notify law enforcement, we do that without hesitation. And we prominently display our bully prevention policy on all of our websites and in every school building. So it's very, very clear how we feel about bullying. But, as is our habit, we're not going to stop there. What else can we do? That's where unity comes in. Unity Day is later this month, but unity is more than just a day. This is an expounded solution that Rockingham County embraces, and it's integrated into everything that we do. Unity is everything you see on the screen. Unity is the way Riverbend Elementary institutes what they call flight crews, where older students and younger students come together to emphasize school family. Unity is what Turner Ashby High School does in what they call Shining Light, where anonymous kindness notes and weekly shout-outs are made, where 127 shout-outs were made just last week. Unity is what South River Elementary does with their plant promise, where they plant tulips and at the same time they make a commitment to kindness. And then the tulips come up again next year and they're reminded of their commitment. Unity is what Elkton Middle School does when they create footprints to stomp out bullying and they display them in the school cafeteria for everybody to see. Unity is what Lacey Spring Elementary does when every single morning on our morning news show, we emphasize an inspirational message to encourage students to be a school family. Unity is what happened earlier in this meeting when we spoke on a bus incident, and everybody was thrilled to share the fantastic response of everybody involved in what was a very stressful situation. And Matt summed it up very nicely by saying, I felt loved. That's unity. Unity is the precursor to feeling loved. And Unity Day does have a purpose. Its purpose is to build community through a visible message. And Miss Laura, thank you for putting that shirt on. You're sending the message. So it's got a real purpose. It also has a pattern. It's been recognized since 2011 every year, and it will continue to be recognized nationally every year hereafter. And there's power in Unity Day. By wearing orange, we're making a statement and building conversations around support for bullying prevention. So how do we prevent bullying? And by the way, these are some of the posters that the PACER organization has used since 2011, and you can see how they've evolved over the years. How do we prevent bullying, though? We prevent bullying by doing the exact opposite of what bullying is. Bullying is done with purpose, pattern, and power. We counter that by purpose, pattern, and power. We do things on purpose. We're intentional in our kindness. We do it repeatedly. And we use power to our advantage. We leverage the power that we have as educators, and you leverage the power that you have to say, I'm not going to be passive about this. I'm going to use my power imbalance for good. So thank you.
So as we've shared, bullying prevention and awareness is more than a program. It's about building the communities that are rooted in kindness, connection, and respect. It takes all of us, teachers, students, families, and leaders, working together to make that happen. And that's what we want to do and end with an invitation to all of you. It takes all of us. So on October 22nd, we are inviting you to join us in all the schools across the nation in celebrating Unity Day, a day to show that we are united to stomp out bullying. I invite each of you, our board members, staff, and community to join. Wear orange, visit a school, take a picture with students, and send a powerful message that kindness and unity are what defined us as a school division. Together, we can show every student that they do belong, that they do matter, and that they are never alone. Join us as RCPS stands united to stomp out bullying. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that information. The next information item we have, looks like we're going to see Dr. Amy Painter again for some policy revisions.
There we go. Right, I have one policy revision for you this evening. It is policy DL, payroll procedures.
Board members, do you have any questions for Dr. Painter? Okay, I've got a question. So, just so we're clear here, if you're on continuing contract and you've signed a contract and you're coming back, our payroll runs September 30 through August 30, 31. But if you are not coming back to the school division and your benefits run those same months, October 1 through September, it's a little sideways. Yes, okay. But if you are leaving the school division, we're going to pay you out the balance of July and August in one at the end of June. Will you also, is that when benefits cease, or you will also pay for those upcoming months and have benefits through the end of that time? End of July, okay. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. This only addresses salary. It doesn't address benefits. Okay, so policy. Okay. Okay, so this saying we're going to end your payment fixes that policy as far as ending the benefits 1 month later. Basically, you're. So if we don't change it, just so I'm crystal clear on this, let's say a teacher quits today, their benefits would then also, like, they wouldn't have health insurance tomorrow, or. Thank you.
Anything else on that policy? Thank you, Dr. Painter.
And in the other policy changes, we've had some conversations about making some adjustments to our public participation at school board meetings, not really significant changes, but adding the 6 pillars of character to ask all speakers to adhere to those pillars when they're addressing the school board, and also just reminding folks that public comment is one way of addressing or communicating with school board members, but also emails and other forms of communication are also ways to communicate.
Okay, board members, that concludes our information items, and we're now at the tail end of our meeting. Dr. Shiflett, comments from you?
Yes, I have a few comments. One, Dr. Holloway, I may suggest that orange and blue are complementary colors. So perhaps on Unity Day we could declare blue jeans, the orange and blue. I think those colors go well together, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen that somewhere before. So a few things. So a couple of comments I would like to just share some updates. One, we are moving towards a new platform for communication, looking at a program called Parent Square. It was formerly, I don't want to say it was formerly known as Remind, but Parent Square bought out Remind. This happens a lot in the world of technology. So basically, folks who are familiar with Remind would be very comfortable with this new platform. I commend Mr. Gillette and his team and Kay Lapiro. They have worked the last 2 years trying to make rooms more accessible and to function, but it's been a bit of a steep mountain to climb, and I'm not sure we can get over it. So we're going to look at another alternative platform. I also want to make the board aware that we have asked our architect firm, Arc Inc., to begin some preliminary work looking at Spotswood High School and that renovation, and to get a better idea of maybe what that renovation would cost, and also to look at maybe some potential ways to do the addition to that school, and that may help us as we're trying to work on our CIP in collaboration with the county government. Also, I want to just kind of speak for a moment. The Virginia Board of Education has set new cut scores for standards of learning assessments, and we are waiting for them to determine if there will be a rollout over several years for these new cut scores to take place. From my understanding, the higher scores may be phased in over 4 or 5 years. That is yet to be determined. However, my comment would be that higher expectations are never a bad thing. So the Virginia Board of Education is raising the bar, and we will work to meet their expectations at all of our schools. And then finally, I just want to comment or just make the board aware. So each month this year, we're doing a perfect attendance challenge for students and teachers. And for the month of September, the winner of the day off was Amy Cubbage, a custodian at Broadway High School. So I will be working for her this Friday night from 3 to 11 at Broadway High School. And I have since learned, after my commitment to that night, that it's homecoming and that I may have some late hours and have lots of cleanup to do. But I'm committed to the task and looking forward to it. So there are my highlights.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members will now move into school board highlights, questions, and comments. We'll start with Ms. Cave tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett, for sharing about the SOL cut scores. I've had lots of questions about that over the last couple weeks. Parents are very nervous, and so Dr. Shiflett is a very good contact for you as a parent. I mean, I'm not trying to send everybody your way, Dr. Shiflett, but he's just very knowledgeable on all of that, and I think that he can help calm and cease a lot of fears that have been sort of going on within our community and probably throughout the state. But I do agree with him that higher expectations is not a bad thing, And one thing that Dr. Shiflett, you said to me in the past couple weeks was that it's test taking is a life skill. And so it's very hard for some students. My oldest child is a test taker, and so he has no issues with that. But other children, it's hard for them, and so, but it is a life skill. It's something, that they need in life, and so that was something that sort of helped me because I was like, oh my goodness, too, as parents were calling, I'm like, I get it, I understand. But anyways, he is just a great resource, a great contact if you're feeling nervous about that. And I hope that you're correct in the rollout thing. If they roll out those scores over a period of 4 to 5 years, I think that will be helpful to our students as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about and address tonight is something that I really hesitate to bring up, and I hesitate to say it because I know it's going to come at a cost, and it's a cost that I have not wanted to pay. I have held on to it for the last 12 months in hopes of maintaining relationships that were built between the Rockingham County School Board and the Rockingham County Board of Supervisors. But I think if I had realized my miscalculations of the depth of those relationships, I would have come forward with my thoughts and my opinions on it a long time ago. So for that, I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize to the public, to my constituents, and to the citizens of Rockingham County, and also apologize to you, Mr. Cross, because you've been the one to face most of the flack for it. There's been talk in the community that we, maybe as a board, but I think what I've seen most of has been Mr. Cross. My name has been mentioned too. But in regards to growth, and I hesitate to call growth a problem. Growth is not always a problem. But it is, when we're talking about it from a school perspective and having to build schools and possibly redistrict and all of those things, I'm going to talk about it as being somewhat of a problem tonight. So there's been talk that we want to put a Band-Aid on this growth problem by redistricting instead of building a new school. And that's not true. That's not true at all. We definitely don't want to put Band-Aids on things and give temporary fixes. I mean, I would like, when I leave this position, that people would be able to say she made lasting change and not temporary problems. So that would be my goal. But I'm going to give some background on that tonight. We've also been accused of wanting to inflict social and emotional harm on students by redistricting as opposed to building a new school, and nothing really could be farther from the truth. We completely and totally understand the repercussions of redistricting. We know what it does to kids. We know what it does to families, and we agree with you. It's not desirable. And then there's also the issue of being fiscally responsible and being good stewards of the space that we already have in schools. And so we want to be responsible about that. And that's been the subject of our discussions with Superintendent Dr. Larry Shiflett as well. There's just a host of factors that go into these decisions. But here is some of the background on how we've gotten to where we are today, some of the perspectives that are out there, some of the thoughts that are out there, and why there has been opposition from namely myself and namely Mr. Cross and maybe a couple others to the building of a new school, which will likely affect the taxpayer. And I will add here that I have not heard from any supervisor on the Board of Supervisors that this would not affect the taxpayers of building of a new school. So here we go. On October 9th, 2024, which was just over a year ago, this school board met with the Board of Supervisors to discuss growth in our county. We discussed the potential need for a new elementary school. We actually have one excellent location that had been discussed for a new elementary school and more, but that location was not discussed at all that day. We were presented with a piece of land that was offered by a builder, from my understanding, a national builder that has come into our county and put up hundreds of homes. A builder that can put up hundreds of homes has that ability in a very short amount of time. Homes that bring families from out of the area, that add to the pressure put on the infrastructure of a county when it grows. The roads, grocery stores, the restaurants, and yes, our schools. This builder wanted to start yet another development and offered land, a very small amount of land that was not actually enough for a school, by the way, so we can build a school right by his development, which seemed highly convenient. There was discussion about how nice it would be for these people to be able to walk to school. During this meeting, I inquired as to whether or not it had been a historic norm in our county for a national builder to come in and tell a local school board where they had to build a school. And as you might imagine, this brought a loud roar across the room, a roar of denial, and they told me that is not what was going on here, but it is exactly what was going on there. The answer to my question should have been simple. the simple answer should have been no. It's not been the historic norm for school boards to be told when and where they need to build a school. But it seemed to me that day that questions or resistance was not welcome. The only thing that the Board of Supervisors wanted that day was a nod from the school board. We didn't vote on anything that day. They just wanted a nod from the school board that we approved of this particular location for a school. And for what? So that they could build yet another development for Rockingham County. Another development being approved from the same people that got elected on the promise of slowing down these developments and promoting slow and responsible growth. And that's on them. That's something I'm not responsible for as a school board member, but it does affect my thoughts. You can call them, of course, if you have questions, but their decisions were bringing consequences to the school board, and so that's where I get involved. One supervisor stated in frustration, "We've been working on this for so long." And I wondered, who is we? Because this was the first time we had ever discussed in depth, if you could call it that, or as a whole board, this particular area for a build. So who was working on it for so long? Not the school board and not as a whole anyways. The only time it had been mentioned was when the school board was discussing a possible redistricting, but it was dismissed because a few of us felt that the location was terrible. The thought was that we would redistrict before we could build a school that we would someday regret and people would someday talk about as being a decision made in haste. To add insult to injury, a feasibility study had already been completed on July 31st, 2024, and yet no one brought it up that day. As a matter of fact, many school board members were not even aware that one had been completed, and interesting that no supervisor brought it up. Perhaps it was because the very first point on the study said the proposed acre site is insufficient to accommodate the proposed elementary school with the required RCPS elementary school site components. And then it went on to say the concept plan shows RCPS being required to procure 3 adjacent properties in addition to this site. RCPS being obligated to purchase adjacent residential properties adds a noteworthy degree of difficulty and numerous variables to the proposed site's viability. VDOT will most likely require construction of turn lanes. Additional modifications bear the potential to be costly. The site is unable to accommodate additional on-site parking for school events. The site is unavailable to accommodate space for further school expansion. The site is able to accommodate a 1/6 mile track. This is much smaller than RCPS's typical 1/4 mile elementary school tracks. The site is able to accommodate a grass playfield within the 1/6 mile track. This is much smaller than the RCPS's typical elementary school grass playfield within a 1/4 mile track. The site will require considerable volume of earthwork to achieve a balanced site. This site is able to accommodate stacking for approximately 12 buses. This site is able to accommodate parent-student drop-off and pickup stacking for approximately 50 cars, assuming that the cars are double stacked. This is less than is typically wanted for a neighborhood elementary school. Neighborhood schools historically have a higher volume of parent-student drop-off and pickup, and as such, there is greater propensity for parent traffic to back up onto the public roadway serving the school. So for all of these reasons and more, yes, I, and perhaps I would speak for Mr. Cross, we've been against building a new school in this particular location. But let me be clear, this does not mean that we have been for redistricting. We do not prefer redistricting. No one prefers to redistrict. No one wants that. And here we are twice, same board facing this potential redistricting. When given the option to either redistrict or build a school in a location that is a distant second to another really great place to build schools, yes, redistricting seemed more favorable. Not preferable, but more favorable. However, if the majority of this school board and the Board of Supervisors forces a build in the location that I've just spoken about, then my vote for redistricting will be a no, because we can move those students into the new school and we can keep Elkton Elementary, River Bend, and McGaheysville Elementary, the small, quaint schools that they currently are. And as such, I do not even know that if I'm still in favor of the addition at McGaheysville Elementary School. A renovation, yes, but an addition I'm not so sure about. So to end, yes, we actually do want to build an elementary school if and when it is absolutely necessary. And I get that you must project and prepare for the future and for growth. I mean, I get that. I get it. But I want to build it for our kids, for your kids, the children of our current local residents, to alleviate overcrowding of schools that we already have, particularly Cub Run, then with room to grow for future potential residents. And I'm open to talking about that at any time, but this has been a subject that we just have not talked about. And I'm bothered that the community thinks that we would redistrict with no thoughts about anyone, or that we would build a school with no thoughts. We've actually put deep thoughts into this over the past 12 months. So that's all I have to say about that.
I'd like to take this opportunity to remind board members that when we have closed sessions, they are closed for legal reasons. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Ms. Lohr?
I would also say that we have recently spoken with our attorney that those things are closed and private until one board or another makes them available to the public.
And I understand I was in the room when we received that legal counsel, but I would also say that when closed sessions are no longer closed, it erodes trust among all board members and among in between boards that we're trying to work together with.
It erodes trust and speaks of the lack of integrity that's already there.
Ms. Lohr?
Thank you. So I guess I'll start with today. Chair Hurst and I were able to tour Spotswood High School and with our Board of Supervisors, and I think we had a really productive day, and I'm looking forward to further discussions on these matters. Also, I want to thank Mr. Zimmerman and, oh golly, your name just went right out of my head, but our bus driver from the incident, if we will. I do want to clarify that I did not say, I'm coming if you want me or not. I was in contact with our transportation department, and I said, hey, I think I'm the closest bus. Let me know. And he said, get on the road. I think I called you and said, I don't know where you are, but I knew, and this is a fun fact I learned, I knew that you were somewhere between Doswell and Gordonsville on Route 33. So I put Gordonsville in my phone and told it to take me 33, and up popped an accident. And I'm like, there they are. So I did get en route, and then we found out that it was worse than I could help you with. So I did return to the fairgrounds to take care of the students that I had left there, that I had left with other adults. I took their lunches, but we made it back. But I wasn't like, I'm coming whether you want me or not. But I do appreciate everyone who pitched in to help, especially the folks from Louisa County and the folks in our transportation department, because it was definitely a scary situation. And I think every single person involved handled it professionally and handled it very well. So thank you to everyone who was involved. And then I want to mention that I also was able to travel to Hilliard to celebrate Farm to Plate Day, I think it was, and I served lunch. And I know that we've had some discussion as a board about maybe lengthening the lunch period for middle schoolers. And I want to proudly tell you that I not only helped serve the lunch, and it was apparently nachos take a while to serve, so it took a while to get them served. It was one of our longer serving times, I believe is the way they said it. I was the last one to get my plate for that lunch break, and I sat down and ate my lunch, and just as I put the last bite in my mouth, they came over the speaker and said, okay, students, start lining up. So I feel like our lunch period is adequate, and it does a really good job. So I thank all of our administrators that have worked really hard to get that narrowed down, because I told you, I was the last one to get my food. One of the first kids to get his food in that lunch period came up with ranch dressing all over his back because somebody had a little bit of extra time and decided to get a little creative. And that's what happens when middle schoolers have a little extra time. So thanks to all of our administrators for getting it dialed in just right.
And then also, finally, thank you for my beautiful T-shirt. I believe that, are you all still here? But anyway, there you are. Thank you so much for our T-shirts. I plan to wear mine with pride, and I definitely support anti-bullying. In fact, on the way here, I was like, oh, darn, it's October. I'm supposed to be wearing orange. So I was very proud to put it on tonight to wear orange in support of anti-bullying. So thank you all for that presentation. And that is all I have.
Mr. Cross?
Thank you, and I also want to say thank you to the bus driver and those who were involved in the accident that occurred. I heard a lot of great things about what you guys have done. It's good to meet you and to see you tonight. If my son or daughter was on the bus, I'd like a big burly guy like you to be in charge, and I'm sure it would have made him feel very safe as well. So thank you so much. Nice to meet you tonight. Nice to meet you as well tonight. You did a good job. Didn't get a chance to tell you that, but good job on presenting that tonight, and I thought you did a great job doing that. I also want to say thank you for the board and for the board supervisors for meeting and talking about Spotswood's renovation and seeing where we might be at that, because at two board members, or I think it was two school board meetings before, I did bring that up, and it seems like it's getting some attention, so I do appreciate the fact that we're looking into Spotswood and seeing what kind of help we can give Spotswood sooner than later. I also want to talk a little bit. I want to say first, thank you, Ms. Kay, for saying what you said tonight, because I have been the Lone Ranger talking about the redistricting, and redistricting is one thing that all school board members don't like to do, because it's the one thing that makes parents mad, which then makes the community upset that you're having to redistrict, which causes you votes at the ballot box, and that's one thing that school board members don't like to talk about nor discuss. That's why the old school board left it on this school board to take the vote for redistricting when this new school board came on. They left that vote up to us instead of taking the vote. It was about 2 years ago when we was here at this school board meeting, where I see some people in the audience that was here sitting on the dais as well. And it was at that school board meeting where the school board wanted to adopt Youngkin's model policy, but withhold D, G, and H, which was the most important issues of the model policies, which was student name changes, which was keeping boys out of girls' locker rooms and boys out of girls' sports. So they wanted to make it look like they were passing Youngkin's model policy, but in reality, they was not passing Youngkin's model policy, but they were going to continue having conversations on that. It was at that school board meeting that night that I said those who voted that way that night would not be on the board, and when the following year would come around, the new board would vote on day one to adopt Youngkin's model policies in full, and that's exactly what we did. So I want to congratulate the board for withholding your campaign promises to the public, that that's what you do. And I see people in the audience that didn't like that decision as well, and we did it knowing that the majority of our community wanted that and deserved that. And so I'm very grateful, and I hope that's one of the things that we do. We talked about leaving a legacy. I hope that's one thing that we did, is that we pointed out that we did have boys going into our girls' locker room. It was actually that following week or so, it was Ms. Hurst who had her campaign speech over at our debate at Turner Ashby High School, where she discussed where we had boys in the girls' locker room, and we had a group of Spotswood girl cheerleaders that was very unhappy and at unease that they had boys in their locker room at a cheer competition match. One thing that we didn't know that was happening here in Rockingham County Public Schools. It was very alarming to me when I found out that when I got on the board, that we were allowing children to change their names at school and not telling parents about that. I had no idea that we were doing that, but that was a practice that we were doing. And from day one, I said that the parents needed to be in the know of exactly everything that was going on with their children's life. And we fixed that problem instead of just having a practice and doing that. I'm discussing the redistricting. One of the things that I thought that was very odd is that this whole thing even came about during the last meeting, and I felt like that's very political as well, to make people upset and to make this be a talking point at this moment as well. So yes, I do think that was a planned strategy for people to be upset about the whole redistricting. One thing that I found very interesting when we sat down with the Board of Supervisors and with the school boards, or with the school board, was that when we discussed MTC, building a new MTC, which wasn't on the plans before the new board came on, that we sat down and the Board of Supervisors showed us several different properties and where we could build a new school at. And all those were great options. It gave the school board an option to build it in several different locations, but when it came time to build a new elementary school, it was here is where it's going. And so I don't think that a new school, elementary school, is going to age well in the middle of a 250 unit complex, whether it's duplexes or townhomes. I think after 20 or 30 years of aging, it may not age too well to have a school sitting in the middle of that. The location of where it's at, I think it could be at a very better location than being in the urban development area than where that's at. And so, yes, I have been against that. And at the same time, I've also wanted to make sure that we were being fiscally responsible with taxpayer money, because over half the citizens in Rockingham County do not have children in county schools. And so I wanted to do what was right in making sure that, yeah, I'm willing to make the hard decision and redistrict if we have to, if it's going to save county taxpayer money right now. So I'd still stand behind my comments on that, on if there's any way that we can stop for a while. Again, the parent who came forward tonight, thank you for coming up and speaking. Most people that do buy your homes, you're looking at the schools and seeing what schools you want your kids to go to as well. And so I appreciate you coming up and speaking on that tonight. And I can say this, that even though there may be some low reading scores at different schools in which you were discussing about tonight, I can tell you that those schools are great schools with great principals and great teachers and awesome families that are just as great as those that your kids go to right now. I can testify to that right now, that that's true. So it's a hard decision when we talk about redistricting. The one thing we did discuss about redistricting is that it would not change where your child went to middle school or high school, which I think is very important, because we're discussing it would be where they go to elementary school, but it would not change where they would graduate from or where they would go to middle school. So that's important, that if we do have to redistrict east, if that's an option in which we do, and I think that we should be good stewards, like Ms. Cave said, with taxpayer money, that is an option in having to do this. I don't think that we're having this as a push that has to happen immediately. I will say this, that there are some Board of Supervisor members that would, if had it their way, that they'd already have shovels in the ground already. And I don't think that's wise. I think that we have fixed some issues. We looked at Pleasant Valley Elementary School, where we could do an addition onto that to help with some of the growth on that end of the county, and that's going to help out with the growth and coming into there. Yes, is there looking at growth in different areas? Yes, but I think that we have time to be able to discuss it. And one thing I will add to that is that Dr. Shiflett has done a great job when it comes to coming on as the superintendent and making that one of his top priorities when he came on as a superintendent. He has not been caught off surprise or been caught off guard and been surprised by the whole redistricting. This has been something that he's been looking at before he even got the job, something that he brought up from the very beginning and during his interviews that I sat under but didn't get the opportunity to have those meetings count when things are being counted up. And so Dr. Shiflett's been looking at this and has been on top of his list to make sure that the county and that the school division is not caught off guard when it comes to building a new school. So thank you, Dr. Shiflett, for being on top of this from the very beginning of you even coming on the board. Thanks for being on top of this. I appreciate it, and I'll hold off on my other comments tonight, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ms. Burgoyne.
right, I'll try to be quick and touch on a few of these. Hopefully you can hear me. I feel like I'm probably the worst person to discuss redistricting because I went to 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools. So my heart is more involved than my brain. And I certainly wrestle with it because I was always the new kid, and that was really hard for me. I even went to school in 2 different states, so I was always new, and that was a real struggle for me. So my heart kind of takes over in the redistricting department. But I'm obviously, I want to focus and be concerned about the tax dollars. But I am also very, very concerned about the kids because I've been that kid, and I know the impacts. And when I became an adult, people said, "Wow, you're so outgoing," and I said, "Yeah, because I had to be." It was a coping mechanism that I grew into, and just became very, very loud and very outgoing to make up for for always being the new kid. So that is definitely something that I struggle with. I will speak to the Spotswood. I was at the renovation issue. I was at Parks and Rec had a cheerleading exhibition recently, and I was in the bathroom, and a parent who was older than I was said, "My God, they haven't touched these bathrooms since I went to school here." And I was just going, "Oh my goodness, yeah." And they were struggling with the paper towel roll, and it was just, I said, "I'm on the school board. We're talking about it. We're looking at it." So yeah, so I've seen that firsthand. I appreciate the bullying presentation. I would love for this to be more than a month. My daughter, she's in 4th grade. It always says, we do kindness week. I want it to be kindness year. And we do bullying month, and I want it to be all year. And so I'm stealing her ideas. But I love this anti-bullying campaign, and I'm really passionate about it. It's nothing I can fix on my own. Early when I was elected into this position almost 2 years ago, one thing that I really wanted to look into was public speakers or motivational speakers, just trying to bring something new into our schools to hopefully help with that. We haven't ran with that as far as I would like to, but I promise to keep pushing for more solutions and more things. And now that we have Dr. Holloway, maybe she can take the reins on that and run with it. And then I will share with you a story. I have 2 stories, and I promise I'll be quick. My daughter wanted to go. WRE had an auction this weekend, and my daughter decided, they had asked her, "Do you want to be a Vanna White and carry the items down the row?" She said, "No, I want to bid." And so I gave her an auction number, and we sat in the very back because we got there right when it started. And she wanted to bid on this beautiful fall wreath, and she just kept going. Every time it went up $5, she just kept going. And I realized after some point she was in a bidding war with this woman 2 rows ahead of us, and come to find out it was Mrs. Hurst here. And I told my daughter, I said, no, because they just kept going, $5, and they just kept going back and forth. And Mrs. Hurst's husband said, "You're bidding against Ashley's daughter." So it was really funny, but Mrs. Hurst did win. I had to reel my daughter in a little bit, but it was awesome. But my daughter just kept, she was committed to this fall wreath. So if it goes missing from their door, you know who it was. My second story, a coworker of mine told me this today at work. She had gone for personal reasons to the emergency room last week and was sitting there in the waiting room, and she said that this man came flying into the emergency room and said, "Is there an East Rock volleyball player here?" And she kind of caught her attention, and the nurse said, "Well, do you have the patient's name?" And he said, "I don't even know who this girl is." And so, of course, she's telling me the story, and I'm going, who was this guy, right? So, of course, they weren't releasing any information. He sat down in the waiting room, and shortly, this girl walked in her volleyball uniform, and they connected, linked up, and sat in the waiting room together. And my friend said, "I just was so impressed by this man. He flew there. He was at home, heard that his player got injured, and come to find out it was our interim athletic director at East Rock, John Woodrum. And I've never met him, but it made such an impact on my coworker that she said, I was so impressed by this guy's dedication. He flew in here, he's retired, and he was there for a player that he didn't even know because he was very concerned. So that was really touching, and it reminded me, you just never know who's there, right? Nobody knew I was in the Spotswood bathroom when they were complaining about the paper towel rolls. But I was very proud on that moment that he represented RCPS so well. So I just thought that was awesome. I'm looking forward to the Broadway High School game this Friday. It is the homecoming game, homecoming parade, and their pink out game. And now that Dr. Shiflett is covering for our custodian, I am really excited. So I think that's something really cool that Broadway does, is this homecoming parade. And I have a group, I volunteer as a coach for Parks and Rec cheer. So I have 16 4th and 5th graders going through the parade with me. So I am looking forward to it. And Dr. Shiflett, you can ride on our float if you want to. Okay?
I said I would be working.
You're
I'll
invited.
be busy cleaning.
You can take a break. Can't you take a break? Anyway, that's all. You could ride a horse.
I thought you were supposed to bring your own shovels for that. A special thank you to the Pence administration for opening your building, hosting us this evening, and feeding us dinner. We appreciate your hospitality. I'm going to end with a public statement from the Rockingham County Public School Board in regards to some social media posts recently. The Rockingham County Public School Board expresses its strong disapproval of the recent social media posts made by board member Matthew Cross. These posts have included employee information and the sharing of inappropriate and harmful content involving students from a neighboring school division. Such actions are unacceptable, unprofessional, and inconsistent with the standards of conduct expected of a member of a school board. As elected officials, we are entrusted with maintaining the privacy, dignity, and trust of our employees, students, and community members. The behavior displayed through these posts represents a serious lapse in judgment and a violation of that trust. The Rockingham County Public School Board takes these matters seriously. We reaffirm our commitment to ethical governance, respect for confidentiality, and the protection of our employees and students. We will continue to act in the best interest of our school division and community, ensuring that our actions reflect the integrity and professionalism that the public deserves.
I'd like to know, when you said that comes from the school board, which board members signed on to that?
Would you like to take a roll call vote, sir?
I would like to know what board members that came from. You spoke as the board, so what board members
I have
approved of
consensus.
that?
Board members, if you would like to share.
I support the chair in her statement.
Not surprised. Okay.
I do not support the statement.
Thank you, Ms.
And I do not understand why you did not call all of us. Did you only call the ones that you knew would agree with you, Chair Hurst?
I don't need
Why
to
did you
have
not call me?
conversation with you and Mr. Cross on something that I know that you will not
Thank
be in
you.
agreement with. Mr.
Because
Cross
there's
and I have
been-
spoken.
So now you predict the future.
Mr. Cross and I have spoken
No.
a number of
No.
times over the last year and a half
No,
about
ma'am. No,
about
ma'am.
his social media. It's one, I need the public to understand that his posts are his posts. We are each responsible for our own social media posts. Our page, my page is mine. I'm responsible for what I say on there. You are responsible for what you say on your social media page.
Yes, ma'am.
It is
And I
not
said
the
it-
role of the school board, and I need to make it clear for the public that you do not speak for the school board in this manner.
And that's fine. But I did not speak on behalf of Rockingham County School Board on my Rockingham County School Board page when I made the comments. I stand behind my comments and my post of what I posted on Sunday 100%. Because when it comes to protecting children, I'll protect them. I don't care if they're Rockingham County or Harrisonburg City. I am a pastor in the city of Harrisonburg, and I have kids who are afraid to go to school because of the out-of-control fights that are happening inside there. So if you want to condemn me, the 3 school board members tonight that want to condemn me for posting on my personal page my personal feelings of what I said, then that's fine. You can do that. But I stand behind protecting children 100%. I do not regret a word that I said. I did not break the law in posting the video. A student from Harrisonburg High School sent it to me through social media, and I posted it. Why are they afraid to post it? Because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble at school. They're afraid to attend school because of the fights that are happening at
Mr.
that school.
Cross,
I have,
you-
wait a second, I'm not done. I have children who I pastor and who I love that do not have a voice in the matter. I thought very hard before I made the post because I knew it would be controversial. I knew that people would not like it, and I thought and I prayed upon it. I thought about it, and I said, if I do not say something, I take away this child's voice in this matter. I'm okay if I take the darts. I'm okay if you make a public statement here tonight regarding my post. It does not bother me. You have been an agent of the board against your own board to make FOIAs on the board through this campaign. You have
That's a
actively
lie.
campaigned against me through this campaign on knocking on doors in
Point
my
of
own
order.
district.
Point-
No, it's not point of order.
It is point
it's
of
a
order,
point of
sir.
fact is what it
Nope.
is.
Point of
And
order.
all this is a campaign.
Mr.
like-
Cross, you are out
wait a
of
second,
order.
no,
You do not
it's
have the
only
floor.
a campaign.
I want to know what
Sir,
you would
it's
do
only a
if you were the
campaign.
parent
No.
and that was your child, like say at Montevideo High Middle School, and your child was the one getting beat up. Would you appreciate that?
I'd whip my kid's butt's what I do.
Sir,
Yep.
we need
I'd
to
whip
stay
their butt
focused. I understand that
if they
you are
acted
not
like that.
happy with this.
No,
I would
it's not
remind
that
the
I'm not
board
happy.
that
This is
Harrisonburg
political.
City students
And you have
are
been very
not your
political since you came on this board.
Mr. Cross, this board does not, being on this board does not mean that I have to campaign for the people who are sitting on this board. I owe you no allegiance.
What, as the chairman of the school board, you don't think it's inappropriate to go out and campaign against one of your own fellow board members?
No, sir,
I
I'm
think
operating.
I think it very,
no, sir.
very much is, and it's just it's the same. Not
Is that
wait a
any
second.
different than
It's
Ms.
not.
Cave?
It's no different than me posting on my own personal page my own feelings about a matter.
It's
that
no
you
longer
brought
a
into
personal page. It's no longer a personal page when you make it when you post public business pertaining to school board.
It's not school board.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank
you
you
very
all
much.
for attending this evening. We do have reason to enter into closed session. Ms. Cave, or I'm sorry, Ms. Laura,
I
do you
move
have
the
that
board
motion?
Enter into a closed meeting. I move the board enter into a closed meeting under Virginia Code Section 2.2-311A1 for the purpose of discussing and considering personnel matters, including assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, salary, disciplining, or resignation of specific employees. The subject matter is board discussion pertaining to specific employees. I also move the board enter into a closed meeting under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A2 for the purpose of discussing student matters, including discipline, that would involve the disclosure of information contained in student records. The subject matter is board action pertaining to student discipline. Third, I move that the board enter into a closed meeting under Section 2.2-3711A7 for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel pertaining to probable litigation. The subject matter is a received demand. Lastly, I move the board enter into a closed meeting under Section 2.2-3711A8 for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice. The subject matters are board governance and grievance procedure.
Thank you, Ms. Floor. Ms. Cave has the second. Any questions or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor of entering into closed session, please say yes. Yes?
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We're now into closed session.